I have the Christmas tree back up with the star circulating around on the ceiling. This is for my grandson, my oldest grandson James, who was in the Middle East and missed both Thanksgiving and Christmas. So today he's going to get his Christmas, even though it's April. He returned from the Middle East a couple days ago. His wife, his daughter, and he will be over here in a little while. His wife's got some gifts for him, and she's going to put them under the tree. We're going to let him open them up. So he's not going to miss his Christmas. It's just going to be a little belated. And of course, there has to be a little Christmas ambiance beyond the tree, that is. He'll be here in just a little while. Well, hello again. I came outside to see if the sun was going to come out. We haven't seen it in so long. I think it's trying. It's trying to sneak its way through. I don't think it's going to make it. So, might as well get back in the house and work on the Hammarlund HQ-100 and try to get that baby finished up in the next few days. Well, we're making some progress. I took the front faceplate off and redid all the silver on it, did the dark gray in the center, and just basically left the gray. I treated the gray, the light gray, the original paint, like I would do a wood cabinet radio. You know, try to keep as much as possible of the original. So all I did was lightly sand where the dark. This is all cigarette stained in here, all nicotine and tar and all that stuff. That gave it a kind of a yellowish tint when it should have been a nice gray like you see down here. Now I lightly sanded that, not much. I didn't take it down very much. I did it by hand, and anywhere it was like that I went ahead and, except for the entire front, I wasn't going to do that. But anyway, she's playing good and working good now. I still have to put the clear on the chassis itself, which I'll do tomorrow. And then the cabinet, I'll show you what we got to do on the cabinet. I don't know if you can make that out right there, but that is a dent from the inside out. It's bulged out. Now, how in the heck does something like that happen? The rest of it's nice. All I have to do is sand it down, get rid of some of the rust along the very edge. I'm not going to touch this at all. It's got the tube layout on there. I think I mentioned that once before. It's in good shape. It just has a little bit of rust around the edges that has to be removed. So I'll be sanding this down with my orbital sander and this here, and I'll put some legs on the bottom, and that should take care of that. Now for the legs, I decided to go with these little rubber things I have. They've already got the holes in the center. All I got to do is cut off that knob right there. I don't want to drill a hole that big and then push it through there. I'm going to just use a screw with a washer. I got plenty of room here where the screw won't even wind up inside the cabinet, which is kind of good. So I'll be putting them right there, I think, through each corner. But I got to get rid of all this crap first. And you know, I'll go ahead and repaint this part. You know, not the back, just this part right here, all the way around, and I'll put a clear coat on it. And anything on the inside that needs to be done, but I don't think much. There's a little bit of rust there, but it's all surface, easy to knock off with that sander. So hopefully, let me see, today's the 2nd of May, and it's taken me a long time to do that faceplate. It was much longer than I thought, 2 or 3 times on the silver. Boy, what a bear. But I got it the way I wanted it, close enough. It's not perfect, but it looks a whole lot better. So today's the 2nd, which is Thursday. I hope to have it done by Monday, this coming Monday. And that'll wrap up the entire thing. Oh, I want to put a power cord on it and a fuse holder also on the chassis. So if it's not done by Monday, it'll be Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. She does look pretty nice though, don't it? A whole lot better than it did. I cleaned it. These cleaned up pretty nice now. Turn off the light here. Yep, I like that a lot. The entire chassis has now been sprayed with clear. Satin clear. It looks really good, you know, and it didn't take long at all to tape this off. You don't have to go to extreme, you know, lengths to do it. just basically covered. I covered up the backs of the dials with a piece of paper and then just kind of moved it out of the way. Sprayed down in there. You know, it's perfect. Now I'll just go ahead and remove all the tape, and it made the transformer look even better. Things are looking better and better. I have cemented the new fuse holder in place. I'll show it to you in a second as soon as I flip this up. But I need to get the old power cord out. I got it disconnected under there. And thanks to D-Lab, he showed this tool one day, recently, I think. Well, this is a while ago, I guess. And it's for removing these things. I've been using a pair of pliers, you know, like this, and it kind of boogers them up a little bit. You know, you get the teeth marks in the new one when you put it in. I didn't even know this thing existed. Apparently, Ron, our good subscriber down in Florida, and a couple other guys sent like 2 or 3 of these things to D-Lab, Terry Dayton, when they saw him struggling trying to get this thing out, I guess, with a pair of pliers. And they said, hey, you know, what about this tool? So they sent them to him. And he said, well, he didn't even know that existed either. So let's see how it works. I watched him take his out of his chassis and put the new one in, or put the new one in, I guess. And this is great. Let's see if it works. I don't want to booger up the new one going in. You just put it there where you get to squeeze the two together to get it loose from the chassis. Okay, I found the secret. I was squeezing this large outside area right here. Now you need to get it behind there and get it just to it's thin enough to make it. You got enough play in there. Usually you can pull this thing out enough to get these squeezers, I guess you call them, get them in behind that larger area onto this area right here. And then it's easier to squeeze. And she popped right out of there. For those of you who have never installed a strain relief in the hole, you can get them in different sizes. This one here is a lot larger than this one. We'll be using the smaller one here, I think. Let me see, let me compare it to the other one. Yeah, it looks just about the same size as the one I just took out. I don't want to use this one because it's too boogered up, you know. I bought several of them on eBay here recently. Got them somewhere. I can't remember where I got them. I think it was eBay, or I had them laying around. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was eBay. My mind is completely gone. Okay, let's go ahead and get the cord in. Get that baby in there. Well, a few days ago I went to a local flea market and I picked up this really long extension cord. I don't know why, it was only $2, but I got it because it was super long. And I said, you know, what the heck, so I'm going to chop it down, the length down to size, and use it. A couple of hints about stripping insulation off a wire. If you cut too deep with your strippers, no matter what style of stripper you use, if you cut too deep, you're going to cut into the strands, the copper strands. You don't want to do that. The current carrying capability of an electrical wire, no matter what type it is, the current capability, handling capability is determined by the diameter of the wire. The diameter of the wire. The voltage handling capability is determined by the insulation, the quality of the insulation. If you got good current handling capability on the wire, you know, proper, but you got really crappy thin insulation, the voltage will blow right through it. It'll just fry everything. Keep that in mind. So when you strip, let's say you got 10 wires in each one of these. You got 10 strands forming each one of these wires. If you cut too deep and you cut through 2 of them, and then you say, oh, that's okay, I still got plenty left. No. If you cut through 2 of them, you've diminished the current carrying capability by 20%. You don't want to be doing that. You don't want to be plugging in a wire into the wall socket of your house that can only handle 80% of what's coming out of there as far as current. Same thing with the voltage. You know, if you've got a lot of people, they go down to the auto parts section of a Walmart and they pick up some wire and they want to wire radios with it. There are voltage ratings for insulation and current rating for the wire itself. Keep that in mind. So whenever I strip, I always look in here to make sure I didn't leave any. Let me see if I can get a little closer there. See if I didn't have any. I want to make sure I don't have any wire any strands of wire in there, and I do not. Okay, hard to see, I know. See if I get a little closer. Nope. Anyway, that's one. Let's try the other one. No wire in that one. No wire there either. Okay. Now, what happens if you you didn't, you cut through one of the strands, just one strand? Is that going to be? Will that work? No, it's not going to work. Learn to be a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff. If you cut through one of the strands, lop them both off again and start over. That's the only thing you can do if you want to be safe. We're putting fuses in these things, and we're putting hookup wire that's rated at 630 volts, and we're doing all that sort of thing, and then we come down to wire, and we're going to go ahead and, hook it up that's lost 20% of its current carrying capability. No, it doesn't make sense to do all that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and tin this. Hopefully not too far close to the insulation. Let's see what I can do. Alright, I don't want to belabor this thing, on and on, but as you can see, I did not put the solder. I made sure I cut them long enough, or stripped them back far enough, I guess I should say. And when I went ahead and tinned them, I did not take it all the way back to the insulation. And there's a reason for that. You don't want it to be wicking up underneath the insulation. You want to keep the solder down here so the wire is still flexible. It's not going to break when it bends, okay? Now, you do your very best to keep that from happening. And even if this is a solid wire, it's always a good idea to tin it. So when it comes time to whatever you're going to solder it to, you get a faster heat transfer and a faster connection. All right. So also try to do your best to make sure that the solder, if you twist these wires so tight with your fingers, just you strip the insulation off and tighten them real tight with your finger. That's a dumb thing to do. Just kind of gently do them and put them back in the shape that they're supposed to be without twisting them tight. If you twist them tight, you're not going to get solder all the way through the strands. That's you wind up with just a coating of solder on the outside, which is no good. You want the solder when you tin to go all the way through the strands. So that's why you don't jack the strands down so tight that the solder can't get through. Hope that makes sense. All right, let's get this thing. I'm going to be putting it inside this strain relief, and then I'm going to push it on through so I have plenty. Probably this, I don't need probably about maybe this much, but I'm going to go ahead and give it about another 1.5 inches. I want to have plenty of wire sticking through the inside of this chassis, and you'll see why when I flip it over. Here's where I went ahead and used JB Quick, and I brought the wire through so far, and you'll notice that the rib side, which is the ground side, goes over here, or I guess the neutral side, and the hot side is the smooth side. I'm going to be hooking it to here, and then from here I'll put the fuse in. It'll come out the fuse, and it'll go over and connect it right here. Let me zoom in on that. Now, why am I going to connect it to this side? Well, this side over here is the transformer side. You can see it. This is the wire coming out of the transformer. Very easy. It goes to this pin right here. So this is going to be the transformer side, and the other one it's connected to here. So it's connected across these two terminals right here. Transformer here. Let me get this thing steady so you can see what I'm doing. Transformer here, and the on-off switch here. Now the on-off switch, this black and white wire, I've already traced it out. This is a black and white wire that's connected to that terminal right there. Let me get a little closer even. That black and white wire it comes out and goes around, and it's this black and white wire right here. And if you follow that black and white wire up the cable bundle all the way, it goes up to this on-off switch right here, okay? So we got to connect the hot to the side that has the wire going to the on-off switch, which is right here. The other side goes to the transformer. If I can get this perspective going here. So let's get that soldered up. Now you don't need gobs and gobs of solder to solder this stuff up. It's just not necessary. Solder is a very strong metal once it cools. And there's not going to be any strain on this wire. It's not like something's going to be pulling on it all the time. It's good to go. Just wrap it around there and try to keep your insulation still free of any solder, so it's still flexible, okay? It'll flex back and forth without breaking. If it breaks up underneath this wire and this radio quits, it'll take you forever to figure that out. It'll be broken up. I've seen them broken under there. People will, dip their wire in flux and then go ahead and solder it, and boy, it just wicks right on up into there, maybe this far. And it gets a break here sooner or later because it's located in an area where it gets flexed once in a while. And they can't figure out why it won't work, Well, the wire's broken up in it. It looks fine, but it's broken up under the insulation. Don't wick up under the insulation. Don't stick your wire in flux and have it suck it up under there, okay? Don't do that. And don't use gobs and gobs of solder. It's not necessary. Alright, the reason I made these things so long here was I needed to avoid this shaft. There's a wire right here that came from the factory. It was pressing against this shaft. And I'm going to try my best to get it further away from there. And it was rubbing on the insulation every time they turned the antenna knob here. It turned that shaft and it was rubbing against that insulation. There was a white spot on it. So I didn't want the same thing to happen to this. I wanted plenty of slack so it would be way far away from that movable. Even though it doesn't create a lot of friction, but over time you can wear, the shaft would have worn through this. So I need to do something about that before I close it up. Okay, I've got this one connected, nice and flexible. This one connected, nice and flexible. Now I need to run a wire from here, from this side. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Need to run a wire from this side of the fuse holder. Come on, focus in. Maybe it is focused, I don't know, I can't tell on this side. I want to run a wire from that side of the fuse holder over to the switch. Okay, so the power will come in from the wall, go through the fuse holder, down to here, and then up to the switch. And that's the way she's going to work. Let me go ahead, I'm going to use regular hookup wire for that. Alright, I used a piece of solid red wire for this, okay? Keep it nice and clean, top and bottom. Lots of good cleaning. Get that old flux and crap off of there. Alright, she looks nice and neat. Not too shabby at all. Now I got to find a fuse and stick in there. The fuse is in, and I'm not going to put the strain relief in until I find out for sure that the radio is going to work, because I only have to wind up taking it back out again. I don't want to damage it in the process. So let's plug it in, bring it up, and see if she'll make some noise. For the new test, I've got it plugged into the Variac up here. Plug. We're going to bring it up on the Variac and go nice and slow with it. I don't want to take any chances in case it's wired wrong, which I don't think it is. We're just going to take it up to like 50 volts. Well, we're getting something right. We got us some dial lights. Maybe I did it right. Who knows? I'm going to take it on up and see what we're doing in current draw. Current draw to me is always paramount. That's why I don't use one of those dim bulb testers. I want to know exactly what my current draw is. And then we're going to take it on up to, let's take it on up to 90 volts. Yeah, she's doing good so far. I even heard a little static in the speaker. Alright, let's see. You hear it? We got storms going on right now. Terrible. And I'll tell you, this entire spring so far has been very gloomy to me. I'm suffering from spring fever. For those of you who don't know what spring fever is, it's a gloomy thing. You have no energy. You don't want to do anything. You just want to lay around. You can't get fired up or excited about anything. It's never really happened to me much over the years, but the older I get, whenever I have nothing but rain all the time and thunder and the yard's muddy and the temperature's cold one minute and hot the next, you know, it destroys me for at least a month. So that's one of the reasons it's been taking me so long. I can't seem to do anything right. Whenever I do something, I say, that's not the way it's got to be done. I got to go back and do it again. That spring fever just has really taken a hold of me this year. Of course, age has a lot to do with it too, guys. You know, I don't know how much longer I can actually be doing this stuff. It takes a lot of patience, especially when you're soldering. You got to make sure your hands aren't shaking and doing all this old people crap. You know, I'll tell you what. It's really hard being the same age as old people. I like the way the carrier level meter is working on this thing now. It's great. Isn't that nice?
Investigative journalist, how are you, sir?
I've got sensitivity all the way up, audio gain, which is volume.
Safe to say, I don't even know.
Okay, I think we have success. All right, now I'll go ahead and put in the strain relief. And the next thing we'll be working on is the cabinet, and I'll probably start on that. I don't know. I don't really want to go out in the rain and everything. Maybe tomorrow morning. I don't know. The last thing I wanted to show you is how to do this. I don't know if any of you have ever, whenever you make a video, you can't assume that everybody that's watching understands and knows what's going on. Now, a lot of times I've had people say, why do you keep going over the same thing a lot? Because people are tuning in that have never been here before. And they don't see these things, And if what I'm doing is boring you, find another video. There's plenty of them out there, okay? So what we're going to do here, the power cord goes down into this slot. Remember I told you they come in different sizes. Get the one for your wire. And they also come that they have round holes in them for the round wires. I'm only going to push this power cord in about that much further. That's all, that much further. Because I got it plain. I don't want to pull it tight, and I don't want it to be jammed up underneath the chassis either. You got to use common sense here, Just kind of get it in there about like that, and that way you got plenty of flexibility. And you can go ahead and you put your cord down in the bottom like so. Then you take this thing on the top and you snap it over the top. It's got two little slots on each side for those little legs to go into. See the little legs? Got a leg here and a leg there. Goes down in little slots on the side, and then you squeeze it together. Then you use your tool over here to squeeze it together even further, and then you just push it on into the hole. Alright, I've got it just about squoze down in there. Now we're going to try to fit it down in there a little bit. I think it's going to take two hands, but basically I'm just squeezing it together and getting it through the hole. Okay, see, it's kind of holding by itself already. I'll finish it up. Our friendly neighborhood Hammarlund cabinet, that's that dent right there. It's up in the air. I'm going to have to bang it down now, and also this right here, as you can see, it's bowed out, so that'll have to be tapped in to where it's level with this. This might, let me see, be level with this and this, and this will have to be banged down. But you just don't bang it, bang. You put something behind it that's solid, a piece of metal. All I got is this wedge, and it's pretty heavy. You brace it up from the inside. And then once you get it in place underneath here, the flat spot, I'll be using this right here, this flat spot right here. Fits right in there, it's just the right length. Then once I get it up there, I'll hold it up tight against the inside and then tap until I can get this thing flat. The surface on this hammer has just about a flat. It's a little, just not exactly perfect, but it'll work. I stated earlier that I would, not be painting the rear of the cabinet because it has the tube layout, and of course there's also a writing on there that tells you, what the stuff is on the rear of the chassis. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a very, very light sanding with 1000 grit paper, very, very light, just enough to make a clear coat adhere. I'm going to be very careful around here in particular, just enough. But from here down, we're going to go ahead and use the sander, because it's pretty boogered up. It's got to get that rust, got to get that crap out of there on both sides, all the way up to here actually, maybe a little bit here. I may just cover that with clear coat after I sand it. I got to do something. We have to preserve this, and at the same time preserve this. So, clear coat here after I sand it, and after I hand sand it very lightly with that 1000 grit, you can't even hardly put. The 1000 grit is almost like sanding it with a sheet of paper. That's how fine it is. And then from here down, we'll go ahead and spray it after I sand it with gray paint, just like we do the rest of the cabinet. We are down to the last step. A little bit of sanding on the inside. It's got more rust on the inside than it does the outside, which is kind of strange. I'm using 80 grit. A nice new pad on there of 80 grit. So we'll see what happens. Well, 80 grit's not quite cutting the mustard, so I'm going to step it up to 240. The rust on the bottom is a little bit deeper, and there's quite a bit more of it. So we're going to have to step it up even more. We're going to go to a what's called a P80. I'm using my fingers for coarseness. I don't know what the P stands for. Some of these things have the number, and then there's some they have a P in front of them. I don't know what that stands for. Anyway, this is made in Switzerland. How about that? Something not made in China. Amazing. This stuff here, that had the original whatever kind of legs it was on it. I thought there was going to be a real problem to get off, but it's coming right out. No problem at all. Well, 99% of the sanding has been completed inside and out. What I plan to do now is put a nice new fresh pad on it, another a P320 to finish up. It's interesting, I don't know what it is about these old gray metal cabinets on these radios, but the more you sand, the more rust you find. It's very light rust, very surface type, nothing deep. And fortunately, we have Rust-Oleum primer to take care of that. Same thing down in here. And get a little focus here. There we go. And I'm going to wind up finishing it up with this block and this, and then we'll go ahead and tape it off and get it all primed up and see how it looks. The main reason I'm going over this with the block is to get in places where the disc couldn't do it, like along in here. See that little rust area there? I'm kind of hoping it'll take it out. It'll get most of it out. That's all that counts. But I go to all the little places like that, inside and out. And you know, this spring, for some reason, I don't know. I think I'm suffering from spring fever. I've been had the blues. You know, I've been down. There's been a lot of rain, a lot of misery. It's a dull day again. It's been raining day after day. This has never really happened to this degree before. It must have something to do with my old age or something. So I decided to do two things to kind of lift it up. For our Canadian friends up in Canada, I've always wanted to ride the Via Rail across all the provinces of Canada from Toronto to Vancouver. That's like one of my remaining big bucket list items. So in order to perk myself up, I watched a video yesterday on YouTube of a couple that traveled the entire thing. They did an excellent job of showing all about that trip. They picked it up in Toronto, they went all the way to Vancouver. I said, that made me feel pretty good, but, and along the way, it was kind of interesting. One of the stops was a town called Saskatoon, and it was in the province of Saskatchewan. And one of the commenters below in the video, he had to be a Canadian, I think. But he said that there was a couple that, there's an old story about a couple that was taking the Via Rail, and they stopped in that stop, and they didn't know where they were. There was no sign out at that time. So the husband told the wife, go inside the station there and ask them where we're at, So she went in there and asked them where they were at, and the guy says, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And she came back out, and the husband said, well, what did he say? She said, he couldn't speak English. I got a big kick out of that one. That was pretty funny. Anyway, the second thing I did was yesterday I went and got another full body massage. So I kind of feel a little better today. When you're feeling down, you're feeling blue, find something that'll pick you up. And those were the two things I opted to do. Let's finish this up. The hand sanding is done, and these things here, I don't like the way they are. They're bent down. They're not straight. They've been bent down in. They've been over the years. What's happening is when they're putting the bolt in that goes into the chassis, the radio, they're bending down in like this, and they're kind of boogered up pretty bad. So I'm going to tap them out with the hammer. Let me get the hammer out from underneath the radio. I've been using it as a spacer here. I'm going to go on the inside. I'm going to tap it from the inside with this again as my metal piece. Get it as straight as I can, and then sand it down. That way, when it comes time to put it back together, everything will look good. I'll probably put a couple of washers underneath there, glue them together. A couple of flat washers, glue them together, and give me the right amount of space. One washer, maybe two. I don't know. So when we bolt it down from now on, it'll be even with this. It won't be caving down in. You know what I mean? One of those little details that I don't know why. There had to have been some kind of spacer behind it at one time, some kind of cushion. I don't know. Well, there's going to be one now when I get done. All right, that looks a whole lot better, nice and even with the rest of it. Couldn't get it entirely straight because it was pretty well boogered up over the years. But I'm going to give it a good sanding now, and then a final sanding all the way around with our brand new disc, and that'll be it. Then I'm going to tape off this on the back, and we'll start spraying it inside and out. The last thing to do is wipe it down with some alcohol. Get as much of that crap off of there as we can. There's quite a bit. Can't see it on this blue rag, but it's there. I'm going to wipe the entire chassis down, or cabinet rather. Go ahead and let it sit for a couple hours. I got to check to see if I have enough paint to paint this. I was initially.
John Cobb, son.
That was my son John on the Appalachian Trail. He called me to tell me how he's doing. I like to have him check in with me about every other day if possible. Sometimes it all determines how much cell service he has. Sometimes he goes a long ways without cell service. I don't know. He's doing real good though. He's trucking right along. For those of you who have been watching his videos, he's far ahead of what those videos are showing. But you know, he can only upload them as time permits, and he gets into a town and he can rest and do the right thing. Alright, let me finish this up. I'll probably have to do a little more sanding down in this area here. I see there's some rust. Alright, we're to the point where we're ready to put at least one coat on. And this color right here is too light. That's Canyon, oh no, that's Granite. I think it's too light. And this one here is Charcoal Gray, which is essentially too dark. I'm going to spray a little spot here and a little spot here to see what they look like. Well, I think the charcoal, or the charcoal gray is what we're going to go with. This here is just way too light. Both of these are paint with primer mixed, Rust-Oleum. I think the charcoal gray is going to really look nice. It more matches this, you know, the back side here that I have taped up. So let me paint the top, and then I gotta go feed the dogs. They're driving me nuts. Alright, I put on the first light layer. Now again, for those of you who have never done this, you see those tiny little holes? It won't take much to clog them up with paint. So you have to back away a little bit and kind of put it on. Easy does it, like, you know, 2 or 3 coats. Don't clog the holes up. They're there to let the heat out from the tubes, alright? I am really satisfied with the way this cabinet turned out. Boy, this thing is beautiful now. Inside is nice. Everything's perfect on it. I can't believe it. Man, sometimes you just get totally lucky, you know. This is really nice. I got to take the paper off the back. I didn't paint this part. You'll remember I did paint the bottom side. But what I have to do now, I've got it outside. I need to drill a hole here, 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 and here, and get these legs put in. I want these legs put in. I got 4 of them. So let's get that. Hopefully I won't drill the hole too big. If I do, I'll just move over to the next hole, or maybe two over. I'll wind up keep moving across until I get it just right. And I think what I'm going to do is put it right about in this area right here. Well, the first two look great, just great, nice and tight. What I did was I bought these screws that have the cutting, they cut. So I was able to, I don't know if you can see that very well. They have like a cutting edge, a slit there. So I under-drilled the size of the hole just a little bit, and then forced this thing through with a screwdriver, and it cut to the size it needed all the way through. All done. Wow, looks perfect. Okay, one more thing to do, and then we can go ahead and get the chassis back in to the cabinet, and this radio will be done. Well, as you can see, now that I've straightened out these tabs and flattened them down on both sides, there is a space between the chassis and the bottom of the tab, so I had to fill that in. And I've decided to just go ahead and use these flat washers. I went down and bought enough to do the job. I've determined it should take 3 on each side. It'll fill that space in, it'll keep, when I put the new bolt in, it'll keep it from bending down in there. I don't like that. So right now I've got them super glued together, 3 on for each side, and letting them dry. And these are the new bolts that I'll be putting in there that will finish this baby off. Alright, now to keep it from rusting, we're going to hit everything with clear coat. Give it a pretty good coat all the way around. I want it to be well protected, the best we can. It'll rust no matter what you do. Especially in Arkansas here, things are really damp, Alright, time for a cup of coffee while it dries. Okay, that looks a whole lot better. No more space there, and these things are nice and flat, the way they're supposed to be. Perfectly even with the rest of the cabinet. With a lock washer and another washer on the outside, flat washer. Okay, I do believe we are finito. I might have to put another nut on the end of this thing right here. This whole thing was, I thought it was kind of cool when I first saw it. But, I don't know, the more I mess with that, the more I realize it's really not that cool at all. They could have put a knob on there or something, I don't know what. What the heck is this? Where's the Hammarlund? Buzz has horned his way into my video. Leave it to him. Oh, he's such a conniving kind of guy. But, has that radio been restored? Kind of hard to tell. Well, that leaves me no choice but to do it in a different way. Gotta watch that guy.
you are if you're waiting, patiently waiting for me. Oh, how in the world will I know where in the world you may be?
Until next time, this is John.